To the ancestors who crossed oceans in chains but kept their spirits free, we speak your name. To the gods whispered in the wind, wrapped in the rhythm of drums and cloaked in secrecy, we bring your memory into the light. This is not merely history. It is remembrance. It is a spiritual awakening. It is the fire that refused to die. Before the colonizers came with steel and scripture, the African continent pulsed with spiritual harmony. In the forests of the Yoruba, the Orisha guided every birth, death, and journey in between. The land was not separate from the divine. It was the divine. In the kingdom of Dahomey, the spirits of ancestors and gods merged in Vodou ceremonies that blurred the lines between the seen and unseen. In the Congo Basin, the concept of Nkisi imbued sacred objects with power, bridging the physical and spiritual realms. Elders acted as custodians of the cosmic order. Through ritual, song, and possession, they preserved complex systems of spiritual philosophy, passed orally across generations. There were gods of iron and thunder, of river and moon, each with their own stories, colors, songs, and offerings. These were not mere superstitions, but sophisticated cosmologies rooted in understanding the soul's place in the universe. The body was temporary. The spirit was eternal. Death was not an end, but a transformation. These traditions were deeply personal and profoundly communal. Spirituality was not practiced in isolation, but was woven into daily life, planting, healing, birth-giving, justice, and storytelling. Sacred groves became shrines. The drum became language. The dance became an invocation. This was Africa's invisible cathedral, built not of stone, but of memory, rhythm, and fire. And it would be tested in the centuries to come. The transatlantic slave trade did not merely traffic bodies, it sought to erase souls. Millions were torn from their homelands, their languages, and their rituals. Yet amid the suffocating darkness of the slave ships, the spirit clung to breath. Chants once sung in celebration became whispers of survival. Charms sewn into hair and cloth carried ancestral power across turbulent seas. The captors believed they were shipping labor, but unknowingly they transported gods, ghosts, and griots. Mothers whispered incantations into their children's ears, not knowing if they would see the next sunrise. Amid shackles and sickness, prisoners summoned strength not only from muscle, but from memory. They spoke the names of their deities in silence, trusting that the gods could still hear across the waves. This passage was more than a historical tragedy. It was a spiritual crucible. Those who survived did not arrive empty. They brought with them sacred codes hidden in dreams, symbols, and rituals. Though tongues were cut and ceremonies banned, the gods of Africa crossed the Atlantic, not as passengers, but as invisible resistance. The Middle Passage birthed a diaspora, but it also awakened a spiritual storm that could never be chained. In the plantations and colonies of the Americas, African spirituality did not vanish. It evolved. Forbidden from practicing their religions, enslaved Africans fused their sacred systems with the imposed Catholicism of the colonizers. In Haiti, the drums of Vodou rose like thunder. In Brazil, Candomblé became a coded language of reverence. In Cuba, the saints became masks for the Orisha, allowing Santeria to flourish in plain sight. These were not acts of surrender, but of spiritual rebellion. The enslaved disguised their gods as saints, their chants as hymns, and their rituals as Sunday dances. What seemed to be submission was, in truth, resistance veiled in devotion. The spirit of Africa wore new clothes, but her essence remained unbroken. A god by any name is still a god. Even in North America, where the erasure was more brutal, remnants survived. Hoodoo became a healing force rooted in the land and scripture, an alchemy of herbs, Bible verses, and ancestral power. The enslaved found ways to honor the divine in whispers and shadows, preserving their traditions against all odds. In exile, African spirituality was not extinguished, it was reborn. African spirituality did not only comfort, it inspired revolution. It was the drumbeat behind rebellion, the whisper that sparked flames. In 1791, at the Bois Caiman ceremony, Vodou priest Dati Boukman called upon the spirits, and the Haitian Revolution was born. This was not political alone, it was profoundly spiritual. The gods were called to war, and they answered. In Jamaica, Obeah guided the Maroons who escaped and fought colonial forces. In the Gullah Geechee communities of the U.S. South, ring shouts and conjure rituals preserved memory and defied assimilation. These were not just cultural traditions, they were tools of spiritual warfare. Possession became strategy. Prophecy became blueprint. Ritual became resistance. Colonial powers feared this spiritual force more than they feared weapons. That's why they demonized it. They knew that a people rooted in spirit were hard to dominate, so they branded their gods as devils and their ceremonies as witchcraft. But the spirit, once awakened, cannot be buried. It flows through chains, bullets, and time. In the centuries that followed, colonialism and Christianity sought to erase the remnants of African spirituality. Schools taught that Africa was dark and pagan. Churches told black children to be ashamed of their grandmothers' rituals. Hollywood turned sacred practices into horror. But even when outlawed, the spirit persisted. In secret rooms and remote villages, elders whispered the old prayers. Children with dreams of ancestors were hushed by parents fearful of ridicule. The war on memory was brutal, but never complete. Spirituality went underground, not extinct. This silence cost generations their spiritual identity. But memory is not only in books, it lives in bones, in breath, in blood. The body remembers what the mind forgets, and as the veil of colonial shame lifts, a new hunger arises. One not for new religions, but for forgotten truths. Today, across the African diaspora, the spirit is rising again. In Brooklyn basements, young black people call the Orisha by name. In Paris, altars glow with candles for the ancestors. In Accra, Lagos, and Kingston, traditional priests teach the sacred ways on YouTube and in person. DNA tests may connect bloodlines, but rituals reconnect the soul. A new generation is waking from spiritual amnesia. They're reclaiming Ifa, Vodou, Candomblé, and Hoodoo, not as relics, but as birthrights. They are decolonizing their spirits, healing generational trauma not only through therapy, but through libation and prayer. This isn't a trend, it's a return. The drumbeat that carried us through slavery, silence, and shame now calls us home. And home is not just Africa. It's the spirit Africa gave the world. It's in the soil beneath your feet, the dreams that won't let you sleep, the ancestors whispering in your ears. To reclaim African spirituality is to heal a wound centuries deep. It's to remember that we were never lost, only hidden. Our gods waited, our ancestors watched, and now the veil is lifting. Across the diaspora, a new covenant is being written, not in ink, but in fire. It's in the young girl in Harlem, lighting a candle for Yamaya. It's in the elder in Louisiana mixing herbs and psalms. It's in the dancer in Bahia invoking Ogun with every step. This is not folklore, it is foundation. We are not orphans of history. We are descendants of divinity. To light a candle is to declare your survival. To pour libation is to claim your inheritance. The sacred is not behind us. It walks with us, breathes through us. And as we rise, so do the spirits that carried us. The hidden history was never hidden from them, only from us. But now, we remember. The spirit lives. The fire that crossed oceans still burns. The chants once whispered now echo in halls, temples, and homes across the world. African spirituality is not a relic. It is a river, eternal and flowing. We carry it in our bones, in our names, and in our dreams. And as the diaspora rises, so too does the sacred legacy of a people never truly conquered. This is the Spirit's return. This is remembrance. This is power. To reclaim our spiritual inheritance is not just to honor the past, it is to shape the future. The energy that once guided kingdoms, resisted empires, and nurtured communities now fuels a rebirth. It gives voice to the silenced and courage to the searching. This journey home is more than historical. It is soul work. It is the rebirth of the sacred, the gathering of a scattered people who now stand rooted, radiant, and ready. So let the drums speak again. Let the fire dance in your altar. Let your ancestors know you hear them. The Spirit lives in you, through you, and beyond you. And in that truth, there is no defeat. Only resurrection, only return. Thank you for spending your time learning with us. If you discovered something new, please like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the bell so you won't miss more powerful stories. We appreciate you.